Our planet is the greatest living puzzle in the universe. A collection of worlds within worlds. Each one a self-contained ecosystem, bursting with life. But how do they work? The intricate web of relationships and the influence of natural forces makes each micro-world complex and unique. So to discover their secrets, we need to explore them one by one, untangle their interlocking pieces, and ultimately reveal the vital piece, the key to life itself, hidden deep within each of nature's micro-worlds. Running down Africa's southwest flank lies the Namib Desert. 2,000 kilometers long and 200 kilometers wide, this is not Africa's largest desert, but it is its oldest. Created by an 80-million-year feud between the African coastline and the full force of the Atlantic Ocean, it's a startling place. The rugged coast and its sea of dunes is the stuff of legend. The wrecks of ships swamped by sand show how treacherous this place is, blinded by the regular sea fogs, dashed on the rocks by the pounding ocean. Even though it's been shaped by brutal forces, the Namib is one of the greatest natural wonders on Earth. But it's not for the faint-hearted. And that's because the Namib seems to be missing one of the fundamental building blocks of life: water. Some years, it doesn't rain at all. So it would take some truly hardy creatures to be able to survive in this barren, waterless place. In fact, the only thing more extraordinary than the landscape are the surprising creatures that call it home. Sea lions sprawling in desert sands. A chameleon, normally a tree dweller, but with no tree in sight. And a blind mole with no soil in which to dig. In fact, the Namib is home to over 180 species found nowhere else on Earth. To understand how this ecosystem works, we're going to first have to understand how life succeeds here at all. We must take a closer look at these creatures, explore their unique adaptations, understand their interactions, so that we can discover the secret that allows life to tough it out in the most inhospitable desert on Earth. Let's start at the edge of the desert, the coast. The freezing Antarctic waters are the key to the success of one particular coastal species. Where hot desert sands meet these icy waters, the South African fur seal reigns, in giant colonies, several thousand strong. The cold currents flowing northward from Antarctica bring with them deep, rich waters, which in contrast to the desert are teeming with life. Seawater is far too salty to drink, so fish provide the fur seals with both food and water. This saves them from the dryness of the desert, but they're not immune to something else this desert has a lot of: heat. They may be perfectly adapted for hunting in the breakers, but they can't spend all their life at sea. They have to come to shore to rest and to breathe. Out of the water, the seals are vulnerable. The blubber that keeps them warm in the cold water is now more of a hindrance than a help. But the seals have developed a behavior to combat overheating: flipper sailing. Their flippers are the only part of their bodies not covered by blubber and fur. And so, by exposing them to the breeze, they can lose heat. And of course, if it gets too hot to bear, like holidaymakers, the adults make a dash for the cold water to cool off. But they have to come ashore to give birth, and their pups are too young to swim. The effects of extreme heat can be lethal. 1 in 4 fur seal pups just won't make it. But then why, with such a high death rate, are the seals here in the first place? The lethal heat and wind that help create the dunes act as an impassable barrier, protecting them from the rest of Africa with all its deadly predators. So the desert acts like a defensive wall, and the loss of a few pups is a small price to pay for the success of the whole colony. But they're not completely isolated. Black-backed jackals are one of the few animals that have managed to reach the coast, and now they're heavily dependent on the seal colonies for survival. A mutually beneficial relationships developed between these beach dwellers. The dogs are not capable of taking healthy pups, but by scavenging on the dead and dying, they clean up the colony, preventing the spread of disease. It's a practical, if not a little morbid, arrangement. But with the beach littered with pups, the difference between the sick and the sleeping is sometimes hard to spot. Jackals are adapted to desert life, having kidneys designed to handle water deprivation. But without the seal feast on the beach, even they would struggle to survive out here. The seals rely entirely on the ocean, not just for food and water, but as a means to escape the desert heat. So understanding how they cope does not reveal how the rest of life can survive here, with little to no water. But the coast does hold the key to how this desert was formed in the first place. The sand grains that are continually deposited onto the Namib's beaches by Atlantic waves are blown into the interior by relentless winds, creating a desert with some of the largest dunes in the world. The grains of sand that shape these giants may have journeyed here over 5,000 years ago. These dunes are actually dynamic. Like waves in very slow motion, the winds are constantly shifting and changing them. Bone-dry sand forms arcing crescents, a back slope piled up against the prevailing wind, and a shorter, steeper slip face. As more sand builds up on the back slope, the angle of the slip face becomes critical. It's only a matter of time before gravity takes hold and the slip face crashes down. In this way, each dune moves along, slowly but surely. The shifting sands are searingly hot. Midday temperatures regularly exceed 60 degrees. If a seafarer was lucky enough to escape the wrecking coast, they wouldn't last long out here. But there are animals and plants that survive here, where humans have failed. A few tough species have managed to find a foothold in this constantly shifting environment. They may be small, but they are the true giants of survival. All properly built to handle the heat. The shovel-snouted lizard's dance may look bizarre, but it has a purpose. It looks like it's simply getting some respite from the burning sand, but there's more to it than that. It's cleverly taking advantage of the heat dynamics of the dune's surface. The air temperature is a whole 10 degrees cooler just millimeters above the sand. So a raised foot can cool down just enough to bring relief. This desert lizard is so highly adapted to this environment, its behavior so specific to the Namib, that it's found nowhere else on Earth. It's one of 23 species of reptile endemic to the Namib, each with their own unique way to combat the blistering heat. We know chameleons as tree dwellers, but clearly the Namaqua is not your average chameleon. To survive here, it too has developed an extraordinary heat avoidance tactic. Like all chameleons, it can change its skin colour. However, its colour changes are not just about communication or camouflage. Here, the Namaqua uses colour to regulate its body temperature. Following a cool desert night, the cold-blooded chameleon flattens its dull grey body, angling itself towards the rising sun, absorbing the warmth of the early rays. But as the sun grows higher and hotter, and with nowhere to hide, the Namaqua undergoes a colour transformation. By turning a brilliant white, it now no longer absorbs the sun, but can reflect it. An efficient thermostat. This astounding animal has taken an ability to change colour and adapted it to regulate its temperature. A neat example of evolution at work. But this is not the only way in which the Namaqua differs from its forest-dwelling relatives. Rather than the fused feet used by tree climbers to grip branches, this lizard is able to splay its toes wide. Not only does this prevent the indignity of sinking into the sand, but it also affords this chameleon something that its relatives lack: speed. And when the ground below you is searingly hot, it doesn't do any good to hang around. So, even in a world without shade or cover, with supremely clever temperature controls, or thermoregulation as it's known, life has learnt to survive. But there is shade, if you know where to look. And so far, we've only scratched the surface of ingenuity here. The desert ecosystem doesn't just exist on the surface. There's more to discover by looking in the dune itself. Sand is not nearly as densely packed as hard earth. Between the grains, there's enough air to breathe. And as we can see on this thermal image, the sand can be up to 20 degrees cooler just centimeters below the surface. So it's the perfect bolt hole to keep cool. Or to lay a trap. The Namibian spore spider is tough. It can withstand higher temperatures than any other spider in the world. And its ability to tolerate the heat is the key to how it gets food in this lonely place. It sets its trap near an isolated grass tuft, then weaves sand grains together to create a sunshade that doubles as a trapdoor. While the spider tunnels below,